Everybody, how y'all doing? And another thing. So what's good? What's how y'all doing? Y'all know this is Shabazz with the proper perspective. And we got something to talk about for this morning music. Please excuse me, I am a little tight. So let me just say, I want to start off real quick though, and I'll say it this way. Moving to Africa is like jumping off a cliff, hoping you'll learn to fly. Y'all hear me? So I got a comment on my last video. The one where I talked about don't move to Africa thinking you're automatically gonna find some spiritual awakening just because you touch down on the continent. And so this sister, she found the video. Thank you for the engagement. She listened, she dropped a comment, and she said something that it rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm gonna tell you what she said, but it rubbed me the wrong way, not because of what she said was not because it was false, not because it was ignorant. I mean, quite frankly, it was true, and that's the problem. Or that's what rubbed me the wrong way, or not the truth of it in itself, but the way she said it. Now, hopefully, you'll get what I'm saying. You can always roll back on over there, and you can read the comment for yourself. Maybe you'll receive it differently than I. But here's what she said. She said the Black Americans that went there, talking about went to Africa, moved to Africa, what have you. The Black Americans that went there, a lot of them have turned into scammers trying to survive there now. And I'm like, first I thought I need to delete this comment, but no, 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 no. No. But I do want to say, hold on. It's time for a moment of reflection. What we going to try to do, I'm trying to unpack this thing. Because this is exactly the type of comment that gets weaponized by the enemy, that gets weaponized by people who don't want black folks to even think about leaving America. It ain't even that much about Africa. But there's a squad of people who don't want black folks to leave America. And I don't think it's rooted in honorable intentions. And so anyhow, I want to address this because if I don't, and if I'm gonna let it, remain on the page, for those of you who do tune into me, for those of you who do appreciate, my channel in my little small corner in my little neck of the woods, somebody can happen along and they're gonna take this comment and run with it. And they're gonna use it as a justification to stay stuck right here in the belly of the beast. And that's why it rubbed me the wrong way. I got a problem with that. So we're gonna talk about it a little bit. Now I'm not running away from, I'm not shying away from the reality of that comment. Yes, there are black Americans who moved to Africa. Some went to Ghana, some chose Kenya, some are in South Africa. We got some in Egypt, Morocco, the whole continent wide. There are small pockets and sometimes big pockets, but there are pockets of diaspora. And I really mean diaspora. I am tired of this closed-minded component, like the only part of the diaspora is America, is the United States of America. Because the continent over here that's called America includes Canada. And South America is a continent of its own. These are all America. But again, I digress. Yes, whether they be in Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, whether they be in Tanzania, in Uganda. There are African Americans who moved to the continent. There are African Americans who are living on the continent. And some of them are out there hustling. And they're hustling in ways that, well, let's just say, they probably wouldn't be too proud to tell their grandmama about. Unless their grandmama was less than noble in and of herself. And I ain't trying to throw no shots, but y'all know we got some grandmamas that been out here misleading people anyhow. Telling their family they ain't African, they really the Cherokee, and ain't got a lick of evidence to prove. But I'm not supposed to go there. Let me focus. Because here's what we're not going to do, regardless. We're not about to act like any group of people, but we're not about to act like African Americans hustling in Ghana, scamming in Ghana is a Ghana problem. We're not about to act like African Americans scamming on the continent anywhere. That's not an Africa problem. So we're not going to act like moving to Africa turned them into scammers. We're not about to act like desperation and economic survival is something that's part and parcel to living on the continent. It's not unique there. Desperation and economic survival turns all kinds of people, regardless of race, creed, color, ethnicity, regardless of orientation. But desperation and economic survivalism turns all humans into something less than auspicious. I'll just say it that way. And quite frankly, let's not act like it doesn't happen here in America, in the United States of America. Black Americans are scamming right here in America. Black Americans are scamming each other right here in America every single day. Credit card fraud, identity theft, crypto scams, romance scams, insurance fraud, MLM pyramid schemes. And this is not just a Black American thing. Scamming is everywhere. You think they ain't scamming in Britain? You think Germany ain't got a host of scammers? Germain to Germany. Don't excuse the pun. So if we gonna keep it 100, the question ain't, why are Black Americans becoming scammers in Africa? That's that turning point style trick phraseology. The question is, why are Black Americans who move to Africa without a plan ending up in the same desperate economic situations that they were trying to escape the belly of the beast in the first place? That's the real question. And see, this is what I was trying to say, pinpoint, pick out in my last video, in my last morning musing. You cannot move to Africa. You cannot move anywhere for that matter, thinking geography is the secret ingredient. Geography, geographical relocation, is not going to solve your problems. There's a reason why there is an entire industry for relocation services. You can't move to Africa broke. You can't move to Africa without a skill set. You cannot utilize a skill set in Africa that there is no marketplace for. You can have all the skills you want, but if there's nobody that needs your skills, it ain't a skill in that area. You can't move to Africa without understanding the economic landscape. Last but not least, you cannot move to Africa thinking, my people are going to embrace me and take care of me. Because here's the reality. Most African countries don't have a social safety net like Uncle Sam provides or is supposed to provide its citizens. When you go to Africa, if you do research on Africa, that's a big capital bold block text on the if. There's no food stamp program. There's no unemployment benefits. Ain't no Section 8 housing. You show up broke, you stay broke, or worse. And that is the root of desperation. And desperation makes people do desperate things, things they wouldn't normally do. But see, that's not unique to Africa. That's universal. Go to France and be broke. Go to Canada and be broke. Go to Mexico and be broke. You put a desperate person anywhere, and they go hustle. Legal or illegal, ethical or unethical. Because survival is just that. It's survival, and you do what you got to do. But see, and with all of this as what I thought would be natural, actual facts, the real deal, Holyfield, the truth as it is, you know, I really do understand why they say common sense ain't common. Because as you can tell, here's where I get frustrated. Because there's always going to be somebody, and I mean always, there's going to be somebody who takes a real problem, who takes a real issue, a real concern, and weaponizes it to justify doing nothing, to justify staying in a broken system and acting as though that's thriving. It's that kind of mentality, and I hate to keep saying this. Y'all know what Harriet Tubman would have did. And so, and I saw another comment on the same video. Thank you for the engagement. If you haven't guessed by now, this is your brother Shabazz. You are tuned in listening to The Proper Perspective. Please hit all the buttons. Like, share, and subscribe. We can duke it out in the comment field. We can duke it out in the battlefield. That's the comment section. But so again, I got another comment on this same video. And here's what that person said. I was going to move to Africa until I did research. Okay, shout out to you. Kudos to you. I respect the grind because you're supposed to be doing research. But I found that they are very welcoming of Black Americans in many African countries. Oh, did you now? I wonder where you did your research. They go on to say they exploit Blacks. They don't respect them. They con them. And even call them Mzungu. This is the quote. Like I said, you can travel on over there. The link will be somewhere on this page at the end of this video, etc., etc. So you can see the quote for yourself. But this is what I want to address. So hear me out. I want to do a couple of little. Y'all know I like words. I fancy myself a wordsmith. I'm a blurred. That's a black nerd. First of all, and I love reading and studying languages, whether I can memorize them or not. First of all, Mzungu is a Swahili word that means foreigner. Sometimes it can mean wanderer. Why are you talking about that? Because it's not a slur. It's not disrespect. It's a descriptor. That's an adjective, ladies and gentlemen, plain and simple. Just like if I call myself a black man, I'm describing myself. Now, yeah, some Africans are going to see you as a foreigner because guess what, bro? Guess what, my sister? You're a foreigner. You are American. Now, I know if you're familiar with me online, if you're familiar with me, if you happen to be in my inner circle, then you might be like, what's he talking about? He'll never claim. Yeah, I don't claim my Americanity, but I ain't stupid enough to think. I ain't myopic enough to think. I'm not obtuse enough to think me disclaiming my Americanity is enough for the whole rest of the world to see me the way I see myself. I was born here, not there on the continent. I didn't grow up there. I grew up here. I am an African in the West, but I know and understand this is an ideology that's not taught in the curriculums. It's not, hell, it's not taught in the curriculums over here in the West. It's not taught in the curriculums over there on the continent. That's the reality. I don't speak the language, especially not fluently, the little bit that I do know. But calling me a foreigner is not hatred. That's just reality. But this person took that plain, simple fact and turned it into they exploit us, they don't respect us, they con us. My brother, let me talk to you. My sister, can I talk to you for a minute? You specifically who did the comment, you specifically who think like the ideas in the comment. Because all your research that you did, and you didn't discover that they also call us Indugu and Dada. Now, Indugu is the Swahili term for brother, and Dada is the Swahili term for sister. You didn't discover that though, right? And you ain't been there. You didn't go. You didn't do any on the ground research. You didn't conduct any reporting on the ground. I wonder where you got your research from. I probably already know, but I'm not going to speak on that right now. And you apparently, you don't know that Swahili is spoken. And okay, excuse me for just being particular about my facts. Because you don't know that Swahili is spoken on the east coast of Africa, not the west, not central, not the Sahel. I mean, each country has a multitude of ethnicities and cultures. And each country or each culture, each ethnicity, each language, they have words for brother and sister. And they have words for foreigner. And within each of those cultures, there are individuals who will look at you and say Indugu and Dada. And there are individuals who will look at you and say Mzungu. It all exists at the same damn time. So your gumbo logic is an epic fail. That's what I got to say about that. I'm sorry. And here's something I really want, since we're talking about research, I really want more people to think about this. I would love for more people to start doing this. Especially the goofies trolling my comment section. Here's something you might not know. When you want to do research, when you go to Google and you type in African news, Google knows you're in America. Your computer has very particular identification information so that the internet knows where you are. And the internet will filter what it shows you. So as soon as you type in something, Google knows I need to show you what's the most prominent narratives about your search terms in your country. So you're never going to get the full picture. I don't care how much research you do. Here's a tip for you. Get a VPN. Virtual private network. Change your IP address to the country that you're actually researching. So if you really want to know what's going on in Ghana, get a VPN. Change your IP address so that the internet now thinks you're in Ghana. Then do your research. Maybe you'll get a little bit more of the nuance. I'm not saying that you're going to get a picture that is radically, well, no, I am saying you will get a picture that is radically different if you're doing correct and proper, that's my favorite word, proper research. I promise you, though, when you stay stuck inside the American bubble, and it's not just It's not just the American bubble. If you are in Britain and you're trying to do research outside of Britain, same rules apply. If you're in Mexico and you're trying to do research about an African country, same rules apply. That's how the internet works. VPNs, please. Let's start using them. Because the algorithm is hiding information from you based on where you're sitting. So let me ask you something. And maybe I shall reiterate. Do Black Americans exploit each other in America? Yes or no? I will wait. Time's up. Do Black Americans con each other in America? Yes or no? I will wait. Time's up. Do Black Americans disrespect each other in America? Yes or no? I will wait. Thank you. Time's up. So why are we acting like Africa is uniquely hostile, or as though Africa is supposed to be uniquely generous, when the exact same dynamics exist everywhere Black people are? Everywhere. The Black community in England, the Black community in Ireland. They're going to have some stand-up folk. They're going to have some sit-down individuals. And so let me say this, because I don't want people thinking I'm only talking about Africa. Hopefully you already get that. I'm trying to spread it pretty thick all across the board. So if you haven't figured it out now, let me just be very clear. Everything that I'm saying, this applies to Black Americans moving to Mexico, moving to Costa Rica, moving to Portugal, moving to Thailand, moving to the Caribbean. You move anywhere without a plan. You move anywhere without proper resources. You didn't even do the research to determine and to find out, to discover what the cost of living is in a particular country. You just hop on a plane with $5,000 and figure, I'll make it. Without proper understanding of the culture and the economy that you plan to land in. Well, guess what, bruh? You're going to struggle. And when you struggle, you're going to do what humans do. You're going to hustle. You're going to cut corners. You're going to look for shortcuts. I'm not justifying. I'm explaining. There is a difference. And this is not about geography. This is all about preparation. And again, I'm not saying that there's no hustlers. I'm not saying that there's no scammers. I readily admit that. What I'm saying is the presence of a scammer should not alter your ideas about moving or visiting. If that's the case, you need to just sit in your house. It's scammers on the block. And according to your logic, if you're so infused with this, they're not like us idea, well, when you bring that back home, when you walk that back down to your doorstep, where your brothers and sisters right here in America, in your same neighborhood, in your community, they are like us and they still scamming. What you do with that? Now, I'm going to say this. I personally, I know Black Americans who have moved to Mexico and ended up running under the table businesses because they didn't understand the visa requirements and couldn't work legally. I know of Black Americans who moved to Costa Rica and got into shady real estate deals because they were desperate to make money. I know Black Americans who moved to Europe, overstayed their visas, and ended up in the underground economy. This is not unique to Africa. Now, the only reason is I can't testify about other ethnicities and races is I don't know them. But I rest assured, and you can too, this is not unique to Black Americans. It's not unique to Black people. But every time it happens in Africa, suddenly it's, see, Africa don't want us. Africa treats us bad. We should just stay here in America, where at least we know the devil that we dealing with. Nah, not for me at least. That's coward talk. Yes, we do know the devil that we're dealing with. I'm sick of dealing with the devil. I don't mind I don't mind experiencing, discovering, exploring areas where there may be a new devil, because I may discover that the new devil ain't a devil after all. Kind of like how in the Ifa religion, I shouldn't say religion, in the Ifa practice, spiritual practices, they have a figure who's usually called a Eshu. Now, a whole lot of Christians say Eshu is the devil. It ain't the kind of devil we know. But when you go investigating, when you go researching, you discover Eshu is not a devil. The folk who first translated was confused and mixed up. So they was calling something a devil that wasn't a devil. So when you do that with Eshu, when you do that with Africa, when you do that with a handful of people in Ghana, that's coward talk. Cowardly, obtuse, myopic. That ain't what I do. That ain't what I'm going to do. That ain't what we do over here at The Proper Perspective. Please hit the like button. Please hit the share the stream. Please hit the notification bell so you can get the next live that I do. But let's be clear about what's really happening, what's really going on when this type of talk pops up. The problem is not that Africa turns Black Americans into scammers. The problem is that Black Americans are moving to Africa and other places with romanticized ideas and empty pockets. Now, to some extent, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know how you can be a Black American and live in the reality of the hell that we go through over here in this country, and then all of a sudden think anywhere else you go is going to be perfect. But I need to try and understand. So I'm addressing not just Africa. I mean, okay, cut the bull. I am addressing the Africa question because that's what I talk about, because that's what's near and dear to me, because that's who I be. That's what I be. That's what this channel is about. But I'm talking about Exodus, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen's. Oh, I can't believe that mishap came out my mouth, and I call myself an English major. I'm talking about Exodus, ladies and gentlemen. So let's pull back a little bit, because it's not about Africa per se, it's about Exodus. No matter where you go. And perhaps I can drive it home a little bit more like this. For all the Bible thumpers out there, you'll be familiar with the narrative. Y'all think it was easy? Y'all think that sojourn out of Egypt? And I should say Kemet. We're supposed to be calling it Kemet, but you get what I'm saying. Y'all think that sojourn, that exodus was simple? Y'all think they were greeted at the gates of each country they entered? That whole tale, that whole narrative in that book tells you that it was an arduous task. Now, if it was arduous for them, it shall be no different for us today. So again, I do have an issue. I do have a problem with this idea that Africa is turning Black Americans into scammers. Here's what's going on. Like, if you're in this crowd, first off, let me make it clear. I salute anybody trying to leave this country for whatever your reason. You know, you could want to leave this country just because you love traveling and you want to experience new cultures. You don't have to be the individual that wants to leave this country for political reasons or for spiritual reasons. You could just want to travel. But if you think I'm going back to the motherland is a plan, if you think my people will embrace me is economic strategy, if you think God will keep me safe God will help me figure it out when I get there. If you think that is the definition and the characterization of preparation, well, when reality hits, when you realize that the rent is due and food costs money, especially the food that you want because you didn't do enough research and you never experimented with, like if you think you want to move to Ghana, if you think you want to move to Nigeria, have a look around in your city. Maybe there's an African restaurant in your city. If you've never had any African food and then you get over there trying to set up camp and you realize the American food costs 3 times, 4, 5, 6 times more than the Ghanaian food, what you gonna do when you didn't come with enough money in the first place? So you realize rent is due. Now food costs astronomical prices. And there's nobody over there handing out opportunities just because panic is going to set in. And panic leads to bad decisions. So when that sister said, Black Americans are turning into scammers in Africa, what she's really describing is the consequence of poor planning. And when poor planning meets economic desperation, y'all know what it is. And instead of using that as a cautionary tale to say, hey, if you're going to move, make sure you got all your ducks in a row. Dot your I's, cross your T's. People use it to say, see, don't even try to leave America. We need to be over here. We should just love this country. If that ain't a trap, I don't know what it is, because I'm sorry. Anybody, what did Chris Rock say? Never mind. I think y'all might know what I'm trying to say. If you black and conscious in America, I don't know how you come to terms with everything that has gone on and is still going on and say you love this country. Unless you hit the lottery. You just became a millionaire overnight. Okay, I give grace. So again, I'm saying what I said in the last video. Macaw. And I'm going to keep saying it. You don't move to Africa to run away from your problems. You don't move to Africa thinking geography is going to fix what's broken in your life. Don't leave this country with no plan, no skills, no resources, no research. Because if you do that, yeah, you might end up desperate or worse. And desperate people do desperate things. Or worse. Because that's true of anywhere. That's the thing. You move to Mexico broke and you gonna struggle. You move to Portugal broke and you gonna struggle. Go to Thailand broke, you gonna struggle. You get your passport, you get a visa, you get on an airplane and you're leaving America and you broke in the air, crossing the Atlantic Ocean, you gonna struggle. Geography has never been the issue. It has always been preparation. Now you can't prepare for every single last thing, but you gotta prepare. You gotta second guess yourself and make a plan for that. Now I remember back in the day, one of the hip hop artists kind of blew up a little bit. And he said, we don't have a plan B. And that was some dope ish back then. But you got to have a plan B. You got to have a plan B and a C and a D. Now, let me say this. Let me move on a little bit. Switch up the focus. To the people in my comments using every excuse in the book to not think positively about Africa. I see you. I see y'all. I see what you're doing. Y'all here talking about, they call us Mzungu. Like being called a foreigner is oppression. What a white man call you the N-word and you love this country. And as a matter of fact, let me say this. I wonder, what do we in this country, what do we call people who come over here from other places? Y'all help me out. It seems like I almost remember some word that we use. What's that word that we use over here? It's on the tip of my tongue. We call people who come over here, that's what it is. We call people who come over here to live, and they're not from here, and their family might not be from here. We call them foreigner. How dare you call someone from another country a foreigner? Yeah, I must say, I gotta. This is what the trolling has come to. I would go over there, but they might call me foreigner. Oh, clutch my pearls. You out here talking about they exploit us. Like America ain't been exploiting us for 400 years. Who's zooming who? You out here talking about they don't respect us. As if we got an ounce of respect in this country. So you want to say black Americans are becoming scammers, like we ain't already scamming each other over here. Black lives matter to some of us, but to others, the next black man, the next black woman is just the next lick. Be you in Detroit or Atlanta, Chicago or LA, New York or DC, Richmond, Virginia, Jacksonville, Florida or Miami or wherever. So what are we really talking about? Because it sounds to me like you're looking for reasons just to justify staying comfortable in your own oppression. Sounds to me like you're scared. And I get it. Hell, I got fear too. I'm scared. Fear is real. The unknown is scary. But you don't give into it. You don't give in to fear. You don't dress up your fear as concern for black people. You don't weaponize real challenges in order to discourage people from even trying something new. If you want something new, you got to do something new. If you want something different, you got to do something different. Now, well, let me just say it this way. Do I think everybody should move to Africa? Nah. Nope. Sorry, Charlie. Do I think Africa is perfect? Hell no. Why would that need to be the metric? Do I think there are legitimate challenges? Absolutely. But here's what I also know. There are black Americans who have moved to Africa in all of the countries that I've named, and they are thriving. They're building businesses, they're raising families, they're starting families, they're living peaceful lives, they're contributing to their communities. And I mean, and they're contributing to their communities on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. What you talk about? I mean, they are contributing to the communities in which they live over there in the African country, be it Ghana or otherwise. And they are also contributing back here. They're maintaining or opening businesses over here and over there. But you don't know that. Because whatever research you did didn't come from an open mind. You stuck inside the bubble of your echo chamber. There are black Americans who moved to Ghana and opened up restaurants. There are black Americans who moved to Kenya and started tech companies. There are black Americans who moved to South Africa and became educators. There are black Americans who moved to Nigeria and are working in film and media. It can be done. But most of you out here talking ish about the continent, about going to the continent, about living on the continent, and then you let it slide that you ain't never been to the continent. You still sitting over here in the belly of the beast. Look, I'm not talking from a blank slate. I've been to Ghana 4 times, and that ain't enough. I've been to Senegal once, and that ain't enough. I've been to Egypt twice, and that ain't enough. Ain't none of that is enough. It's nowhere near enough times to start speaking volumes about assessing an entire continent of 54 different countries. But I've been there. I've been on the continent. I've met Ghanaians. I've met Senegalese. I've met Egyptians. I broke bread with some of them. I may have had a couple of minor disputes. I had a brother in Egypt try to take advantage of me. I had 3 Egyptian brothers come to my aid, and well, we ain't gonna talk about the justice that was served. I had a brother try to take advantage of me in Senegal, and I had another brother step to him and put him in his proper position. So I don't sometimes like, okay, I might be getting lost in my thoughts. This whole thing, you hear one bad story, and I'm not even gonna say one. You hear some bad stories, but hearing some bad stories and then you close your mind to the good stories, there are just as many. There's more good stories than bad, but you don't know this because all you doing is searching out for the bad ones. It's like you're addicted to the rumor mill. Well, guess what? I heard we got sundown towns in America. I heard the police will shoot you down in America, even when you ain't got nothing in your hands but air. And to them, the air looked like a gun. And you'll be the first one to get all bent out of shape in your feelings if somebody from the continent pointed that out. So, whatever you say you heard, someone told me, whatever you say you heard, they do. They do this, they do that. Well, look what happens here. And over here, when it happens, it's put on the news, it's put all over social media for the entire world to know. Look, the real deal, Holyfield, is that moving anywhere requires mindfulness and intention. It requires planning. It requires humility. It requires cultural sensitivity. It requires financial stability, or at least a clear path to it, even if you don't have it. But if you got a rock solid, clear path, a plan, that's better than the whimsical, I'm going to make it up. I'm going to cross that bridge when I get there. Most importantly, it requires you to not move anywhere thinking you no more than or you are better than the people who are already there. And if you really want to keep it funky, that's a fact for everywhere, for everybody. If I'm moving over there, I need to come with that humility. If someone over there is moving over here, they need to come with that humility. Otherwise, that's when you open yourself up to get exploited. That's when you open yourself up to get conned. That's when you open yourself up to get disrespected. Not because you're Black American, but because you showed up acting entitled, like Yorugu always do. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap this up. Let me say this: if you're planning to move to Africa, no. If you're planning to move anywhere outside of America, do it with your eyes wide open. Don't romanticize it. As I said in the beginning, moving to Africa without a plan is like jumping off a cliff, hoping you'll learn to fly. Preparation or desperation. You can get with this or you can get with that. Which one is you going to choose? Don't run away from your problems expecting geography to solve them. Don't show up broke and unprepared. But also, don't let people scare you out of even considering the move. Don't let people weaponize real challenges to keep you stuck. Crabs in a barrel. Don't let people use the failures of unprepared travelers as proof that the move itself is a bad idea. Because the move is not the problem. The lack of proper preparation is the problem. And if we're being honest, that's a problem everywhere. Y'all feel me? So y'all know what time it is. If anything I said resonated with you, if anything I said made you think, if anything I said challenged you or even pissed you off, do me a favor. Hit the like button. It don't cost you anything, but it helps me and it sure helps the algorithm. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it, especially somebody talking about moving to Africa or somebody talking like they scared to do it and they ain't got a plan yet. And subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you get all the notifications when I go live with my morning musings, my afternoon lunch escapades, Shabazz around town, and my deep dives into politics, history, and culture at nighttime. Because we out here having conversations nobody else wants to have. We out here giving you what? The proper perspective. This is Shabazz. These are my morning musings. Thoughts that either come to me or, like I say, the spirit world touches down and imparts upon me some knowledge and wisdom. Like, share, and subscribe. I may pop up later. You never know. I might be at a fancy restaurant showing you all the good eats. But until then, I'll see you on the next live. Peace.